All right. Hi, coaches. My name is Tyler Wright. I am the offensive coordinator at Vandalia Butler High School in Vandalia, Ohio. I am in my third year as offensive coordinator in total. This is my first year at Vandalia, but my third year having been an OC. I have coached for about 7 years now. I was 2 years as a graduate assistant at Bluffton University. I also played at Bluffton University as a quarterback, 2 years as a GA there. Then I spent 4 years at Troy High School as the special teams coordinator, quarterback coach, and then the offense coordinator offense coordinator for two. And then I went to Bluffton University as a quarterback coach this past year, and now I was just hired as the Butler offensive coordinator, and quarterback coach. So before I get started, I just want to say thanks for you guys that are watching, and thank you for this platform. I think this is a great opportunity for coaches to learn from one another. I truly appreciate that from Coach here, and I think this is a great learning opportunity for a lot of people, so thank you for that. And I also want to go ahead and I want to give a couple shout outs to some coaches. It's not very often that I get a platform to share my thanks for everybody. Just first to some coaches, I want to say thank you to Coach Wright. I want to say thank you to Coach Doral and Coach Grandy. All those three were guys that I was graduate assistants for, taught me a lot about coaching, but not only coaching, but being a better human being. So I appreciate them. To Terry Peebles and Brian Moore, the two offense coordinators that I learned under. Huge thanks. A lot of stuff that they taught me as far as game planning, play calling. I appreciate them. To Matt Burbacher, who gave me my first OC job at Troy. Appreciate him for giving me that opportunity as a young coach. Really meant a lot to me. To Aaron Krebs and Chris Mosley at Bluffton University. Chris is no longer there. He's out in Iowa now, but appreciate those guys, everything they taught me this past year. And then to Coach John Puckett, who's given me this opportunity at Butler. So I just want to say thank you to those guys before I get started. So what I'm going to talk about today is installing a new offensive system from scratch. And I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to talk about this. And I'm excited because I think, at Troy, I took over for an offensive coordinator, and the system was kind of already in place. And so I tweaked some things and I added some new stuff, but it wasn't an entire new system, but all the terminology was new. So we still had the same core beliefs, but it was new terminology, new stuff that the way I wanted to call it, the way I saw that, and the way that Coach Burbacher saw fit. So we changed some things. We introduced RPOs while we were there. And then after I left Troy and I went to Bluffton University, learning a new offensive system there. And then at the same time, coming into this Butler job, being able to introduce an entire new offense, right, is challenging because we are going from completely building from the bottom up. Okay, everything is new terminology, new philosophy. So that is what I'm going to talk about today. And if you guys ever have any questions, please feel free to contact me. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is preparation. So I break this down into a couple different facets of how I approach this. So the first one, like I said, being preparation. And it starts with preparing your coaches on your staff. Now, what I want to say before really going to this, before you really install an entire new offense, and for me at Troy, I was on staff already. So I wasn't really having to, kind of become part of the staff. I was already part of staff. At Butler, it's entirely new coaches, new friends now, right? New colleagues. So it's a little bit different. But the one thing I will say is when you decide to be an OC or decide to implement, if you're walking into a position, is make sure that you pick a job where you know that your philosophy are going to align, and that that you're going to be a good fit. Okay, so for example, if you're a spread guy and the head coach is maybe a wing T guy, you're probably not going to line up. Okay, don't try to go into that. Okay, don't try and say, hey, well, I'm going to try and change his mind. It's not going to work. And you guys might be good friends, but it's just not going to work. Make sure you go into an opportunity okay, where you guys are going to see eye to eye, okay, and where things are going to fit and things are going to mesh. Because as you'll see, that can cause some problems later on down the road as you're installing an entire new offense. But anyway, with the coaches, the first thing that you want to do is you want to call your staff meeting and you want to sell your culture of your offense. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I sit down and I have my philosophy of my offense, and I give this to all my coaches. So this you need to have on paper. You have to go into your coaches because you have to sell your philosophy and your MO to your coaches, right? So I'll give this to them. This is what mine looks like, and here it is here. So I'll go in and you'll see my offense philosophy, and I have our mission statement is simple, sound, and well-balanced. For us to succeed, we believe that we have to do 5 things, okay? Our first thing is we have to get the ball to our athletes in space. That is our number one philosophy, that no matter what, when we design a play or we put something in, does it get the ball to our athlete in space? Number 2 is attack the defense with our tempos. We are an up-tempo, fast-paced team. As soon as the ball is set on the ground and the official blows a whistle, we want to snap the ball. Now, it doesn't always happen, okay, because as you'll see here, okay, tempos. Okay, so we'll have different tempos. We'll have 4-minute offense. We'll have times where we want to slow the game down for our defense, right? But we want to attack them with our different tempos. We want to run the ball physically by equating numbers in the box, and we do that with RPO game. We want to throw the ball efficiently by creating mismatches and high percentage throws and concepts. So a lot of triangle reads, and we want to threaten the defense with our quarterback. So if we do those 5 things, right, we should be successful. All right, and then as you go down, and I'm not going to get into this because this is not a presentation about my philosophy, but you'll see our run game, our pass game, and our protections. And overall, this is what I give to our coaches. And we'll sit down and I'll lay it out and say, okay, this is our philosophy. Now, here's the thing. When you are sitting down with your coaches, you have to make sure that you guys see eye to eye on your philosophy. So when you leave that room and they leave the room, you guys are in sync with what you want to do as a coaching staff, right? This is what we're going to do. This is what we believe in, and we're going to push forward in this direction. Because the one thing that is good, and there's one thing that's bad. So the one thing that's good is disagreement. Disagreement and debate is fantastic. That is what makes a coach in a coach's office, okay, propel forward. And one of the worst things you can do as you arrange your offensive staff, or your head coach arranges your offensive staff, or whatever it may be, is a bunch of yes men. Okay? Anybody can sit in a room and agree, but I want people that will sit down and say, okay, well, why are we doing this? Okay, why do we want to run this? Does this help us? Does this benefit us? Okay, and I don't think, and then the voice, hey, this isn't good. Okay, now defiance, on the other hand, is not. So when you're installing this offense, right, you have to make sure that all of your coaches, like I said, see eye to eye, and you're moving forward in the same direction. Okay, we cannot have guys be defiant, and you have to understand that the next thing to this is you're going to be asking guys to get out of their comfort zone. Right? When you walk into a coach's office and you're introducing a whole new offense, meaning you're scrapping your terminology, you're scratching maybe their philosophy, everything you're doing, you have to get them out of their comfort zone. The way that I kind of view this is, my old man, right, is in his 70s and he still has a flip phone. For me, to relate it to this, it'd be like if I walked up to him, threw his flip phone away, and say, "Here's a smartphone." Right? He would be totally uncomfortable. He'd probably be resistant against it because people are naturally resistant against change. Okay, so you have to understand that you are going to be selling this to them and why you're doing what you're doing. Okay. And so that's my next thing is give your coaches your why. Okay? Because if they don't believe it, they won't sell it for you. Okay? So you have to make sure you get them to buy into what you're doing. And we do this in coaching all the time, but most of the time it's just the kids, right? You're selling to adolescents, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. But here you got to sell grown men, okay, or women, okay, if they're on your staff. Hey, here's why we're going to do what we're going to do, okay? And you have to give them your why, and you have to have a reason. And the reason of, I saw it at a clinic, this is going to be great, is not a good enough reason. And there's a lot of coaches out there that'll do that. They'll just go take something in the clinic, which is great. That's why we have clinics. That's why you're watching this video. But if it doesn't fit to what you do and you don't know why you're doing it, don't put it in. Don't do it. Don't run it. If you're not a spread guy, don't try and be a spread guy. If you're not a wing tee guy, even though I came from the wing tee, I'm not a wing tee person, okay? Don't be what you're not, okay? players and coaches can spot a fake. And so when you go in and you talk to your coach, you give them your why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And so what I do is I always come up with hard numbers and evidence for a why. So I dive into last year's film. I'm not talking about breaking down necessarily the entire year and saying what's good, what's not, but I am at the same time. But I'm finding numbers that support why I want this philosophy and why this is going to work. So here's our example of the breakdown that I do. So a lot of these can be figured out in basic, maybe not a lot, probably half of them can be figured out in a basic huddle breakdown, but a lot of them are more than that. So, and I'll show you, for example, for us, okay, for Butler last year, when they lined up in a true spread, meaning no tight end and no wing, they averaged 4.6 yards per play. When they lined up with a tight end, wing, or in 12 personnel, they lined up in they were able to get 2.92 yards per play. And what you see here is that the mold that you're trying to get is for them to understand why, like I said earlier. So when I say, hey, I want to line up in mostly a spread formation this year, I want to line up wide, I want to spread the defense, get the ball athletes in space, and they say, well, why? Why do we want to do that? Well, because if you look at these numbers, okay, when we lined up with no tight end or no wing, we averaged 4.6 yards per play. But when you decide to condense everything with our athletes, you were sacrificing almost 2 yards a play. Okay, so that's my why. That's why I want to do that. And with returners coming back, because guys will say, well, maybe it's because of this person or that, but we have the same guys returning, so it fits our philosophy. And then another thing that I broke down, and there's a lot here, guys, and like I said, this is not what the presentation necessarily is about, but here's another one that I do, right? There's tons of run schemes out there, right? Our main run schemes, or what I want our main run schemes to be, are inside zone, power counter, those three. Okay, inside zone, power counter. And let's say you have a wing T guy on staff and he wants to run the buck sweep, okay? Because wing T guys, buck sweep's the best play out there, right? But when I break this down into our bread and butter, which is inside zone, power counter, what I want to run this year, okay, we average 4.7 yards per play. When we ran stuff like buck sweep, pin and pull, outside zone, okay, things that are a little bit different, we average 1.6 yards per play. And so then I go back and I say, well, hey, look at this. Okay, you ran bread and butter, so inside zone, power counter, 53% of the time. The other 47%, you ran non-bread and butter. So 47% of the time, okay, almost 48, you were succumbing to just saying, hey, I just only want to gain 1.6 yards per carry. Okay, so what I do with this is I take that in as evidence, and it's not to squash anybody from the previous year. It's not to do that, but it's to say, here's the why. Like, I'm not just saying I'm going to do this because. Right? I'm not just doing this because I want to do it. I'm doing it because there is statistical analysis behind why my philosophy is what it is. Okay, so that's one way I go in and I explain to them my why. Now, the next thing that you have to do, is you have to coach your coaches. So we're still in a coach's phase here. And it all starts with them, because if you don't have them behind you, this offense is going nowhere. So the first thing you need to do is you have to understand that you're most likely going to be teaching your staff everything. When I say everything, I'm talking formation names, I'm talking motion names, I'm talking tags, I'm talking splits, route concepts, how you want the route concepts run. You can leave nothing up for assumption. Right? This is entirely new for them. And in a way, if you want to compare it to something, you're really teaching or reteaching these guys how to walk. Okay. And what I mean by that is, it's like, hey, here is what you knew. You were comfortable in it. Now I'm getting you out of it. Okay. You were in your comfort zone. Now you're out of it. And I got to reteach you how I want it to be done, because what you have to now understand is, as you go to implement this offense, and you're teaching everybody everything, that leaves no room for a fraud. Meaning, you cannot be somebody and say, hey, I'm a quarterback coach and I just want to call the plays, and not understand what the offensive line does. Not understand the scheme of how you want it to do. Not understand how you want the 7-step skinny post ran. Not understand, because you're teaching everybody everything. Right? It's just like if you were a teacher and all you had was the answer key, but you didn't know how to do the problems. I know that this is what it gets me, but I don't know. Here it is, right? It doesn't work that way. So You have to know every facet of your offense. I know that sounds cliche, like, yeah, of course, but trust me, I've met coaches, okay, and they're blessed enough that they've stayed within a system, okay, or been promoted within a system where they didn't have to know maybe offensive line play. They just had a good O-line coach. Oh, he'll take care of all of it. But if you want to be a great coach, you got to know offensive line play. If you want to be a great coach, you got to know every facet of that offense, and you have to teach it to these guys, okay? And just think about if someone was selling you something, right? If I go to buy a car and I ask the salesman about something and say, well, what about this car? Tell me how many miles per gallon. He goes, I don't know. I'm not going to buy your product, right? And so that's a big part of it, knowing knowing your entire background, your offense, knowing what you know how to teach it, and you have to teach these guys. And here's the thing. I'm not saying micromanage, but at the same time, I am in a way, because at first you got to teach it to them and then let them go be coaches, right? That's why I hire them. Teach them how you want it done, and then say, go be a coach, go do your thing, okay? Now, what you also have to understand is your offense is your lifestyle. It can't be, like I said, it can't be the cool new thing that you saw at a clinic. You have to be about it and say, this is what we're going to do. You can't go find something on the Big Ten network that's out of your, right, we're out of the shotgun. And if I go find something out of I formation and go, oh, this looked great against, when the Rams were playing, I don't know, the Rams were playing the Falcons. This looked cool. Let's put it in. Can't do that. Your offense is your lifestyle. This is what you're going to do. Next thing is your material. So first you prep your coaches, right? You have to teach them everything. You have to leave no room for assumption, right? Give them every facet of your offense, and you have to know it, okay? Every nook and cranny of that offense, you have to know it. You have to give them evidence as to why and give them the offensive philosophy. So that's how you prep your coaches. Now you got to prep your material. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see, that I guess my opinion that I see happen, is coaches not making hard copies, okay? In my opinion, as an offensive coach, you have to get your hard copies made. You have to make a physical playbook. And I've heard a lot of coaches go, well, we use so many formations that if I make a playbook, it's going to be this amount of pages. So make it. That's your job. Take the time, right? Take the time to make that playbook and to put together for the kids. Because here's how I view this. If you were tasked with building a house, right? And so you're viewing this as from a player perspective, okay, as this metaphor. You're tasked with building a house, and you know very little about tools. You know how to use a hammer, and you know maybe how to use a screwdriver, but that's about it. Very minimal stuff. And I say build this house, and you get no blueprints, no instructions, no hard copies in front of you, nothing, okay? You're probably going to struggle. So when I look at installing an offense, I truly believe in this digital world of, as we're zooming here, right, and I'm presenting this, digital flashcards, basically everything ready on your phone for you. I truly believe that there's something to say about a hard copy notebook or playbook right in front of you. Okay, there's something to say that I can physically write on this, I can physically draw on this, I can see it. And you have to make sure you get that made. And here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? Every aspect of that offense, okay, has to be drawn out. Okay, you have to show them every single little detail, okay, of that offense. Okay, so here's an example of, right, our inside zone. Okay, this is one page out of our book, okay, out of our playbook. Right, you'll see, and this is just from the inside, from the interior perspective, okay, from the interior 7, right, of how we're going to block everything for inside zone. Okay, we'll read this guy. This will be the guy we'll RPO on this side, but and we'll read the end, and this guy will be our second dual read. So what you'll see here, though, is how detailed, okay, we do this. Now, this is a cut up that, or makeup of how we did it last year at Bluffton, and I loved it. So I stole, I'll say, how about borrowed, okay? Borrowed their format and used it because I loved it, right? And it's very detailed. You'll see the footwork. I even write it for the quarterback. And it drop set 5-7, get midline, extend ball to running back with backside arm to far rib cage of running back, get eyes on read, give him fake run, keep him throw run, okay? So the thing about this, what I'm trying to say is it's detailed. And it's going to take time, okay? You even see here on the next one, this is one of our pass concepts, right? You'll see that for every single person here, okay, I told them exactly what to do. Well, what about all these other formations you run out of? Well, the rules don't change, right? They know they have to end up where they have to end up. So I don't have to draw out 8,000 formations. They know what they know. They know that if they're lined up here, okay, in a wing position, I have to get to here, meaning I run an arrow route, right? They know that. But you'll see that for all of this stuff, I give them details, climb route, push vertical with Mike linebacker, and snap off other hash for 12 to 15 yards. That is in there for them to physically see this is what they're going to do. It's just not a picture. It's a detailed picture of what's going on. Okay, 4-step speed out. Okay, we identify everything as steps, not yardage. Okay, because you count steps. We don't want guys looking forward and saying, oh, okay, well, where's 5 yards? No, steps. Everything is steps. Like I said, H attached or wing, 5-yard arrow. And so all of this is drawn out for them, right? They have that, and they have that detail given to them. Okay. What you have to understand, though, is this is going to take time. As you make a playbook as an offensive-minded person, and I've never done for defensive-minded side, so I don't know what it's like from that perspective. But from an offensive perspective, this is going to be the most clerical and most GA-like work you're going to do. You're going to spend tons of time in front of a computer. You're going to spend tons of time on either PowerPoint, Google Slide, Huddle, whatever you're using to make your playbook. Is going to take hours upon hours, and you have to sacrifice your time. That is huge for these kids. Okay. And now the next thing that you do, once you have your playbook made, so the first thing I do is I just make it all set out, and I put every single inside run, outside run, put it all in one category. But then what I do after that is you have to go and you install your camp schedule. So your 10 days that you get in the summer for in the state of Ohio, I go through and I break down every install for each day that I want to do. So in those 10 days, after we get out of those 10 install days, I want 95% of our offense to be in. Why is it 95, not 100? Because the other 5% are the kind of supplemental, maybe runs and supplemental passes that you have in, meaning like for us, our core run plays are inside zone power counter. Okay, we'll carry outside zone, but not every single week. But inside zone power counter and outside zone is kind of like the it's kind of like Y with vowels. Okay, sometimes, right? But for us, the plays that we won't carry, but are in our offense, we won't carry them every single week, are trap, okay, wham, and true guard tackle counter, okay, counter tray. So those will be in our arsenal, but we're not going to put them in because they're not our main, okay, nuts and bolts of our offense. But by our 10th day, 95% of everything is in. And what I do is I draw it up, and I'll show you here what it looks like every single day. And by the end of February, I give these to the kids. So here's what our schedule looks like. Okay, so you'll see here that I have day 1, day 2, day 3, okay, 4, 5, 6, all the way down, okay, till day 10. And what I have here is, right, I have our formation, okay, I have our motion, I have our runs, our RPOs, our protections, our 3-step, 5-step route tag screens. And it looks like a lot. And that's why I give it to them way ahead of time in February. Okay, I give it to them in February, and I say, here is our install. So on June 1st, hopefully, fingers crossed, okay, on June 1st, we are going to be doing day 1. And so here is why I do this. 1, to get it out to them and they can see, but 2, it holds them accountable, right? I'm giving them the answer sheet. Here's what we're doing. This is it. This is what we're doing on day 1, right? You got to know light, dark, and you got to know Ruger and water protection from the offensive line. Okay, RPOs, we need to know bounce. You got to know shallow from a 2x2 and climb from a 2x2. Right? I give this to them as an accountability factor because come day 1, if I've given it to them and I've given them a playbook, which I do, if they show up day 1 and they don't have a general idea, I say general because let's say they're playing baseball and haven't been able to come to everything. Okay, a general idea of what they're doing, then they're going to be held accountable, right? If they have had the opportunity, if they didn't play a spring sport, if they had the opportunity to come to meetings, to come to throwing, to come to everything, and they don't know what that is, that's a problem. They fall lower on the depth chart, okay? Even though those are teaching instructional days, I've given them everything, okay? It's their responsibility, okay, to take some ownership of that and look into it. Now, you'll see some of you might say, oh, well, this is a lot of stuff you got going on here. It is. our offense is pretty heavy loaded. There's a lot of stuff within our offense, and I'll call every single one of these plays. Okay. But for us, our offense is a tree trunk and everything branches out. Okay. So you'll see I have review days in here, but I give this to them really early on. Now, from there, like I said, this, along with their playbook, is their answer key. Now, I distribute my playbook by camp install days. So I've done it two ways. Okay. The first time I did it when I was at Troy, I just made a general playbook of here's my inside runs, here's my outside runs. I just put it all together, and here's my 3-step pass game, 5-step, and I just clunked them all together in their categories. Last year at Bluffton, when I was at Bluffton University, when I was their quarterback coach, they did it by install days. And I found that to be much more efficient and much less overwhelming, okay, for the guys, okay, or for the players. So the way I do it now, and the way we do it, and it's been very successful this past spring period here, is that I give them day one. So if we go back to the camp install schedule, let's see here. Okay. So day one is this right here. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll say, all right, guys, here is, and you'll see here, day one. So I'll give them day one. Okay. It'll just be everything that is on this day one schedule right here. And they will get that. It'll be its own like 10, 15 pages, whatever it may be. Okay. And they have it in front of them. Okay. They have all that in front of them for them to sit there and look, say, okay, here's what I have for day one. Then after that, okay, they'll get day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and they'll get that in their own segments. And here's how I do it. I don't just give day 1 and day 2 right after. I give day 1 and I give it to them for a week. And within that week, and we'll get to this, I have meetings, I have throwing sessions, and we study that one day for an entire week. And then the next week, I give them day 2, day 3 the following week, and right on down the line. Now, obviously, with this, virus stuff hitting, it's been a little bit more difficult, but we've since navigated to Google Slides. So every week, I give them or not Google Slides, Google Classroom. I give them a recorded video, almost like this, of me walking through each day. Right. And so that has been, I've just started doing that probably this past couple of weeks, and kids have really liked that they have that digital copy. They can put their headphone in, listen to my video, and walk through the routes as I explain what they're doing. All right. So let's see here. Through here. All right. So now the second part, the first part is preparation. So all we did was, right, you prepared your coaches. Okay. By having a meeting, selling them your philosophy. The second thing we did was we prepared our materials. Now, the next part is we're out of preparation. We're in the teach it stage. So in the teach it stage, for me, it begins in the winter. Now, like I said earlier, you're most likely going to be teaching everything to everyone. It takes time, right? So when you go in and you have your staff meetings, right, like I said, you're going to be teaching them an entire new offense, most likely, entire new terminology. So you have to set aside at least one staff meeting per month. We were getting to 2 before all the virus stuff hit, but you at least have to have 1. And for us, like I said, I'm a big component of you have to sit down and have face-to-face conversation with people. Okay, smartphones and technology is great, but we want physical meetings for you to sit down, whether it be a Sunday or whatever, or Saturday, whatever day it is, for you to meet and talk and discuss things. The next thing I do from that is after we schedule our staff meetings is I give our staff our expectations. And it's not necessarily the expectations of what they're going to do on game day, because that's a whole different story, but it's my expectations of how I want them to teach it. So the first thing I tell them, and we had this staff meeting before everything got closed down, is I sat my coaches down and I said, okay, here is what, and we had the discussion too. And I don't want you to think that when you're installing new offense, you have to sit down and tell everybody exactly what to do all the time. There's a discussion that goes with it. And we sat down and I said, here's what I need to see from you in your individual period. Okay, in your individual period, because of what we do on offense, right, for the receivers, I told our receiver coach, first thing you do every single day needs to be blocking. Every day, they have to be blocking. Okay, second thing, they have to work on press coverage. Every day. Those 2 things every single day. The rest you can work on. I leave to your discretion. But those are the two things I have to see because of what I know our offense will create from a defensive perspective, meaning how they're going to try the things that will cause us problems, things that they will try and do. I say you have to do this. From an offensive line perspective, I tell them they do kick leads and double teams every day. Every single day. They have to have that. And I give them that expectation and say, if those aren't happening, then we'll sit down together as a coaching staff and we're going to have a discussion as to why maybe that's not happening. We'll treat each one of us with respect, but we're going to have that conversation. Like, why is that not happening? And so you have to give them that expectation. The next thing you have to do is you have to talk about speaking the same language. So when you're installing a new offense, the whole message has to be the same. Meaning every single way that you describe every concept, every single catchphrase that you use has to be the exact same. So when I go up, for example, when I go up and I talk to my running backs, okay, and I say, hey, we were in outside zone. Did you take it? Did you slice it? Did you bang it? They have to know exactly what that means. And the running back coach has to also communicate the same thing. Okay, did you take that or did you slice it? Okay, it has to be the same exact language. And you have to then teach your coaches what you mean by that language, right? And then, at the same thing, if you're talking from the outside perspective, right, from a receiver perspective, hey, well, what are you running? What do we call it, a 12 and in? We don't call it 12 and in. We call it a basic route. Okay, why call it a dig route? No, we call it a basic route. Like, you have to make sure that everybody's speaking the same language. It is important for the kids. It creates fluidity. It creates efficiency for the entire offensive perspective. Now, I want you to understand that for a short amount of time, it is going to feel like you are doing everything. As you install a new offense, as the person that's installing it, you're going to feel like you're doing everything. When I say doing everything, I mean you're going to feel like you're teaching everybody at the same time. And you are. And it's nothing against anybody, right? They don't know what they don't know, what they haven't learned yet, and that's okay. Right? I've been in that position before, right? Where I'm learning, where I'm literally learning right alongside the kids, and the kids are teaching me too. I've been in that situation. Okay? And it's a humbling situation, but it creates growth. But as the person installing it, you're going to feel like you are doing everything. But I want you to understand is you can't do everything by yourself. So you have to teach those guys early on. When I say those guys, I'm talking about your coaches. Okay? You have to teach them early on. You have to get them to understand the offense so that you're not running around being stressed out, trying to teach, 4 or 5 different positions at the same time. Because it's only going to cause you headaches, and you just can't do everything yourself. So make sure you start with teaching your staff, make sure they get it right, and they're going to make mistakes, correct them, and make sure that they're selling the same message to your kids. All right, the next thing is to teach the players. So this is probably the most, I won't say the most important, but the next phase of getting across. Okay, so this might be the kind of the bulk of what you want to hear here. Now, for us, it begins in the late winter. And I will say this. If you want to be a successful play caller, a successful just coach in general, you have to sacrifice time now. And I think that's a really hard concept for a lot of maybe coaches. I won't say a lot, but for some coaches to understand. And I know it's tough because of family time and, you lose a lot of time in the fall, but you have to sacrifice time now. And what I do is I bring my daughter with me sometimes. Okay, I set other times aside, for my wife and for family, but I have to sacrifice time now. And so what we do is we do 12 to 14 meetings in the spring up until summer. So we do at least one meeting a week. And so we started this right after kind of freshman basketball season ended. And I think that gives kids enough time to kind of get through the winter process, kind of get out of that null, and that's when weather starts getting a little bit better. Okay, it starts getting a little nicer outside. We start right through February, and it gives us about 12 to 14 meetings for us to meet and go over our offense. And remember, every meeting that we do is one day. So meaning that first meeting is over day one, and for that entire week, all we do is talk about day one. The following week, I introduce and I give them a packet for day two. And then that entire week, we just talk about day two. Now, we were on track for this, right, until the virus hit. So unfortunately, it didn't work out entirely. But we were on track and we were doing a great job of it. Now, the reason why there's only 10 install days, right, and I'm saying 12 to 14. The reason why we do 12 to 14 is because those 10 weeks, we'll install those 10 days. Then after that, we'll do we'll review. We'll do on day 11, 12, 13, 14, we'll review everything. Okay? It'll be just all in one lump sum. I'll call anything I want to call, but for that entire 14-week period, we're always doing day 1 through 10 first, and then we review. Now, how these meetings should look: 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, 45 minutes to an hour. And the reason why they're 45 minutes to an hour is because I'm constantly asking questions. I'm constantly getting kids involved. It's not me talking for an entire hour. Okay, so here's how our meetings are set up. So remember, you're installing a whole new offense. So this is, just an entirely different animal. Okay, and how we set it up is when I walk into the meeting, our kids have to have their playbook out. So I'll pass that out to them. They'll have their playbook open from the previous week, and they'll be ready to go for me to hand them out day 2, day 3, day 4, whatever day we're on. And they have to have a paper and pencil. And as you're conducting this meeting, the kids should be writing everything down that you're saying. Everything. For us, we will have kids, we'll have the playbook sitting to the left. The concept that I'm talking about is to the left on a piece of paper, and in front of them, they're drawing out the same concept as I'm talking about it and writing down all the coaching points that I'm saying. And the reason why we do that is because studies have shown, right, that as you write something down continuously and make notes, it will go from your short-term to long-term memory quicker and more efficiently than just staring at something, right? So the expectation is they have a pencil or a pen, something to write with in their playbook. And if they don't, kick them out of the meeting. They have to understand that what you're doing right now is the most important thing they have going on for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Okay? So make sure that they are focused, right? Make sure they're sitting up in their chair. Make sure they're paying attention. Okay? They're in a slanted position, looking forward, not leaning back. They're writing stuff down. If they're not, kick them out. Set the expectation. And if you hold that expectation high in that meeting, they'll take it seriously. If you lower it, you'll see what'll happen. Nothing good. Okay. Now, in your meeting, after you go through the initial, making sure they have all their materials and everything ready to go, get them involved. Okay. So I do stand out there, I talk, I lecture, but I'm constantly asking them why questions. So please make sure when you have a meeting, don't sit up there and talk and be that boring guy. Ask them hypotheticals. I'm constantly asking them, okay, what do you guys think the sign for this is? Why do you think it's that? What do you think this guy should run if I want to pull the safety way? Exactly. So this is why we run it this way. I'm constantly asking them why and getting them involved. I give them hypotheticals. What if this happens? What if this happens? And I just call them randomly. So they are constantly on their toes. They have to be assertive in what they're doing, and they have to be alert in what they're doing. And after about 25 minutes, we take a short break. So I get them up. I get them moving around. I take a break. We just talk about whatever we want to talk about. Bring them back after, 2 to 4 minutes, somewhere around there. Okay, bring them back, sit them down, and we start going again. Right after that meeting, go outside. So if you're saying, wow, coach, you're asking me to be there an hour and a half after school? Yes, I am. Once a week. Just one day a week. That's all I'm asking for. Okay, give me one day out of a week, an hour and a half out of your time. And here's the thing. You may only have 5, 6, 7 guys there. That's okay. It's not great. We'd want everybody to be there, but we all know kids got track. At this time of year, they have track, they have baseball. They may be working to help support their family. They got stuff going on, and we get that. I understand that. But what you have to understand, too, is that even if you have 5 guys, okay, those 5 guys, when it comes day one, they can teach day one to everybody else. Now, we're going to teach them and do the responsibility, but they can answer questions, right, about day 5. And if there's ever been a time, to talk about exponential growth, it's now, okay? As you teach 5 guys, they may teach 3 other. And those 3 guys teach, 5 other guys. And you'll see it start to curve and they'll grow and they will teach each other. Okay, but get as many guys in as you can. Okay, but like I said, right after your meeting, take them outside. Okay, and we go right outside and everything we talked about. And some of them say, Coach, I got to go. My mom, dad are waiting for me to go. That's fine. I don't yell at them or do anything like that. Okay, the guys I can keep around are a blessing. Okay, that's why I tell them. If you can say, great. If not, I understand, go. And we go outside and I signal the plays. I stand off to the side. I signal the plays. But while I signal them, I mouth the play. I mouth the what it actually means. So not only are they seeing something physical, right, they're getting a verbal cue also. So, I'll sit there and I'll signal and I'll say, okay, we're going to go, tiger, tiger, light, fist, bounce. Okay. And they hear me saying it, and they also getting the visual cue. Okay. So then after a while, I take away the verbal cue and I just give them the visual, because we know on game days you're not going to be able to see it. But we walk / barely even jog, and I want them to mess up. That's the point. And when they mess up, I tell them, explain back to me why. Why did you do what you do, or do what you did? Why is it wrong? And then in order for you to have done what you just did, tell me what the signal should have been. So I make them constantly answer these questions as to why they messed up, what would have corrected it. And I'm creating a positive failure environment, okay, making it okay to fail, to step on the ledge, say, okay, I can mess, no big deal. And that's the point. Now, from here, after that one-day meeting, that one meeting in the week, we now have the player skill sessions. Got to take advantage of your 7-man sessions. State of Ohio, we get 7 guys. Okay, we begin that once the weather breaks. So once it's nice enough to go outside, like today's a beautiful day. If it were a Saturday, if none of this restrictions and stuff are on, right? But we do 10 to 12. And the reason why it's 10 to 12 as opposed to the meetings being 12 to 14 is because it takes a little bit more time, right, for that weather to break. We start the meetings late February. Start these kind of in March. And they're 1 hour sessions until camp starts. And you do at least one a week. Now, for me, I don't teach at Butler, so one a week, driving up there, on a Saturday and going through this, right? I think that's plenty. It's a little bit easier if you work at the place. But we are on track to do that. Like I said, we're on track to do that, but now we're doing just a Google Classroom where I'm walking them through everything on a virtual environment. The expectations of this. So, like I said, as the new OC implementing the new offense, right, you have to set your expectations. Okay? And the expectations, okay, for your coaches are that your coaches need to be there. Get as many as you can there. Now, I know that life happens. Some of them, you have type B coaches, which are coaches that don't coach within a school district, and they have jobs on Saturdays and stuff they have to do. We get that. I understand that. But if you can be there as a coach, you need to be there. Same thing with the meetings, right? If you can be there, because once again, you're learning all of this too. You are getting coaching from me on how to coach your kids, and you're picking up the signals and the cues that I'm saying about our offense the same way the kids are. That is huge, and that is vital. Now, I asked my staff, they go for about an hour on a Saturday. At least they were, not anymore, right? But when we were doing them, they were about an hour, maybe a little bit over. And I'm asking them to sacrifice that time during the spring. That's my expectation of them. And I understand people have families. I get that. I understand that. Bring them. I bring my daughter, okay, when I have to. My wife she may go shopping and wait on us, okay? But I'm constantly booking in it with family time to sacrifice that, because you have to during the spring. You have to do that. Now, what you have to understand is, as your coaches, as you being there, group struggle leads to success. So studies have shown that when you struggle as a group together, you'll come together more, you'll learn more together, and you'll go farther together. Okay, it's the same reason why lifting together, right, as a team is so much more important than going out to all your individual trainers and then coming together. Group struggle is important. Okay, now within these skill sessions, we do Indy. Okay, so teaching all the cues that you give your expectations of your coaches. This is what they need to work on. They'll do that. Okay, now you can only have 7 guys. Okay, so keep in mind that, if you're working with skill guys, right, there's no real reason for the O-line coach to necessarily be there for the Indy sessions. For the team sessions, yes, to hear the calls. But we'll go through Indy, and then we go through routes on air. So we'll go through our concepts full speed. I'll signal everything. I'll walk around and I'll talk, and I'll say, okay, you got this, you have this, or what do you have? And we constantly rep it continuously. And I move them around to different positions. I don't let them get comfortable. Do not let them get comfortable. Move them from a different position almost every single time. An outside guy, move them the slot. Okay, if they're a running back, move them the slot, move the slot to running back. Make them work from a different position. Okay? Constant communication. So for us, up-tempo team, right, and we sometimes have 7 words within a play call. So, for example, we can go, let's see if I can come off the top of my head here. We go tiger, Tiger Water, J, Indiana, or Tiger Water, J, Arizona, Indiana. Okay, so they have to constantly communicate that, because I only signal one time because we're up tempo. So the guys will constantly be communicating with one another and talking on the field. And if they're not communicating, you continue to stress that, especially in the new offense. Teach them to communicate. That is the biggest thing, one of the biggest things when installing a new offense. Teach them to communicate, because they're so used to doing this, right? And communicating, this is me texting, okay? Make them talk to one another. Okay, what do you have? Okay, I have the arrow route. Okay, I got the slant. All right, I got this. What is it called? It's Indiana. I got this. You got that. Okay, it's water. It's water, water, water. Talk to one another. Okay, and that's especially important for us because, like I said, our play calls are long. It's very West Coast based. Okay, so they have. I literally tell everybody what to do. So, but anyway, what we do is we finish with the NASCAR drives at the very end. So when we're going through routes on air, right? They ask a question, I answer it, we go through it, we run at full speed. But then we always finish with a full drive, almost like a 2-minute drive, right on down the field. Okay, and I don't answer any questions. I'm signaling and screaming the plays. Right? They're communicating, they're getting lined up, and they're doing it. If they mess up, I tell them mess up fast, and I encourage that failure. Okay, our offensive motto, our team motto is fight ready, but our offensive motto is turn it loose. And I tell them you can't be fight ready unless you're ready to turn it loose. And what I tell them is it's kind of like a rabid dog, right? If you let a rabid dog off a chain, right, he should go crazy, right? He should. But if he's a scared rabid dog, he's going to be afraid to go anywhere or do anything, right? It doesn't work for anybody. Okay, so I tell them, I don't care if you mess up right now. It's March or it's April. Even it's May. Mess up. I don't care. Mess up fast. Okay, encourage that failure because they're learning new offense. They're not going to get it right. It's March, guys. But why would a player out on a Saturday give up his time to come get ripped because he accidentally runs a skinny post instead of a fat post? Why that? Let them fail. It's okay. Struggle is good. Let them go through that failure. Okay, encourage it. Tell them it's okay. I don't care if you mess up fast. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the simplicity. So for an offense, and this is just me, I guess, kind of giving my 2 cents on how to make an offense simple as you're implementing it. Right? We do no numbers. And I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of our offense because that's, like I said, that's not what this presentation is about. Try and keep it simple. And I know that sounds weird saying that we'll have 6 calls, 6 words in a call, but our offense literally tells every person what to do. So there's a great John Gruden clip when he was head coach of Tampa Bay, and he's talking to I think Phil Simms. I believe not Phil Simms. I don't know who it was, but he was talking to a quarterback, and he said he gave him a call, and it's this long call, and it's like, wow, this is crazy. But that's how our offense is because it tells each kid what to do. So all they have to do is look for that one little thing that they're doing, okay, and they pick it up, and then one signal, and they go. So for us, a call could be Tiger 6 tail, call Cherokee free bounce. So they know every single one of those words means one little thing for each person, okay? And as they have one responsibility, it leaves no room for guessing. And I also do this. So here's the teaching. Every signal has a why behind it. What I mean is I have mnemonic devices I help the kids remember things with. And funny gaffes. We'll make funny, I'll let kids come up with signals. Okay? I'll say, hey, I need a signal for this. Tell me what you like. And they'll come up with something funny. As long as it's appropriate, we'll use it. And they'll remember it by association. Okay, for example, we have a play called Coffin. Coffin's one of our shot plays. And the reason why we call it Coffin is because we're trying to knock them out. Okay, put them in a coffin, so to speak, right? Metaphorically speaking. Okay, knock them out, go for the kill shot, right? And that's why we call it Coffin. You're like, okay, I'll remember that. So that's one of our deep shot calls. Got it, right? And don't remember that. And that's the important thing. If you keep it simple and you relate it to things, I don't think numbers are relatable to kids anymore. And there's guys out there that use numbers and probably do a great job. And this is just my opinion. That's okay. Okay, but we don't use any numbers. We use all words. We try and keep it as simple for them as we can. Even though I said there's 6 calls in this is one play, but it tells each kid only has to look for their one word, and they know what they're doing. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about before I get out of here is enthusiasm. So in the teach it phase, you have to be enthusiastic about this. If you are like I said earlier, if your offense is your lifestyle, if you're not passionate about your lifestyle, if you're not passionate or enthusiastic about your offense, why should anybody else? Right? If I'm selling a product and I'm not passionate about it, why would I come buy it from you? oh yeah, here's a car, and that's okay. I mean, it's all right. I mean, it's not great, but okay, I'm not buying it. Okay, make me want it. Make me say, okay, this is what I want to latch onto. This is the right thing to do. He's passionate about it. He cares about it, or she. Okay, make them latch onto it. The next thing is the time aspect. And I say that because if you're enthusiastic about it, you'll put the time in. Okay, you have to put in more time in the spring than any other program in the area. I know that sounds cliche, but think about it. You're putting in an entire new offense. You're putting in new terminology, new motions, new formations, everything to go along with it. And on top of it, you probably have to teach your coaches, not that they don't know how to do it, but you have to say, okay, well, this is how I want it done. And this is how I like it to look. You have to give that information to them. So not only are you teaching the kids, but you're teaching it to the coaches as well, right? The coaches will get it, and then you let them go do their thing. Let them coach, right, after they know what they're doing. But that takes time, right? And what you have to realize is you cannot implement this in June. You cannot start this in June, because if you've ever been a part of a practice, right, where maybe if you have a junior high team that comes up and you start teaching freshmen, okay, when I say teaching freshmen, coaching freshmen in the new offense, you know how long it takes them to get acclimated, right? That first day is like a drag. It takes a long time. Okay, you can barely get past the first play, right? You cannot start in June. To me, and there's some coaches that will, and if it works for you, great. But the way I view this is that would be like you telling your team you're not going to lift weights at all during the winter, not at all, until June 1st. Think about that. A lot of you would say I would be crazy, right? If you don't start, if you said our team are not going to lift any weights at all in the spring, but we'll start in June, you'd say that's crazy. It's the same thing for installing a new offense. All right, you can't just start in June and expect to be okay, because if you do, guess what? You're already behind the 8 ball, because everybody, let's say in a hypothetical, all the other staffs carry everybody over, all new, all same offense, everything. They're way ahead of you, right? You can't start in June. If you start on June the same day they do, you're already behind them. Okay, you are keeping up with the Joneses. They're the Joneses. They're leading away. You're behind them, and you're behind the 8 ball. Cannot do that. Okay, and it takes time, and it takes sacrifice, and you have to sacrifice certain things, but it takes time. It takes enthusiasm. Make sure you are enthusiastic about your new offense. Make sure that the kids buy into it. Like I said, start with the preparation. Prep your coaches. Prep them with your philosophy. Get them to buy in. Prep your material, your hard copies. Have your meetings with not only your staff, but with your players as well. Get them all the hard copies. Make sure you walk and talk through everything directly afterwards, and have your skill sessions. Guys, it's been a pleasure me talking. If you ever need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. Here is my Twitter handle. Feel free to message me on Twitter with any questions. I look forward to doing maybe a couple more of these, one more of a nuts and bolts of my offense, but this is just how I implement it. If you can take maybe one thing away from here, and use it, I view it as a success. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I appreciate the platform to be able to do this. So thank you for listening, and have a great day. Thank you.